Hi, I'm Mountain Fiber. I've been on kind of a 1920s sewing kick lately, and with the arrival of summer here in the Pacific Northwest, I thought it was about time I made myself a nice and easy 20s day dress based on a picture of an extant garment I came across on Pinterest. I decided to make my version of this dress out of 2 yards of white cotton voile, which I already had in my stash, but thought it might end up looking a little plain, so I turned to some period embroidery and beading manuals for inspiration. I decided to add embroidered pansies to the collars, since they're my favorite summer flower, and embellish them with some glass beads just like on this 1920s purse. I sketched out the dress based on the sole image that I was able to find, paying attention to whatever construction details I was able to make out, and then followed the 1-hour dress tutorial on the Closet Historian's channel to create a 1920s bodice which would fit my dimensions. Then it was time to sketch out the bodice onto pattern paper and cut the fabric. For the skirt, I simply used the dimensions of the skirt from my beaded 1920s dress, with extra width for gathering at the waist. I figured out approximately what I wanted the neckline to look like, and then began sewing together the side seams of the bodice. I used French seams for a clean finish on the interior, although this got tricky when sewing up the all-in-one sleeve. To solve that problem, I clipped the curve of the underarm seam and then sort of messily folded in the raw edges to do a false French seam by hand, by whip stitching along the folded edge. For the sleeve cuffs, I folded in the raw edge a 1/2 inch, then a full inch, and top stitched along the fold. This didn't look quite right in my opinion, so I folded the cuff outwards one more time and hand sewed it in place invisibly, making sure not to catch the exterior layer of fabric. To draft the collar, I used a collar pattern already in my collection. The bottom part was taken from the Elsie blouse by Wearing History, and then just expanded to be long enough for the low neckline of this particular dress. I also rounded out the points a bit more to match the style of my inspiration garment. I trimmed the seams and clipped the corners, then turned the collar right side out and began attaching it to the neckline of the dress. In the future, I want to study up a bit more on how to draft collars, but given the cobbled together nature of my first attempt, I do think it turned out alright. I created a short section of ruled hem to finish the raw edge at the lowest point of the neckline. Then continued hand sewing the collar facing into place along the interior of the dress. I also used French seams for the sides of the skirt. I ran 2 lines of gathering stitches along the top of the skirt and gathered it down to fit the low waist of the bodice. I trimmed down the raw edge of the gathered skirt and finished it by folding over the bodice edge and whip stitching it in place. I also hemmed the skirt with a deep 2-inch hem, but apparently didn't film any of that process since I have no footage for it. Next up, I joined several 2-inch wide strips of fabric together for the necktie, which I then finished by hand with a rolled hem, which took an extremely long time, as I'm sure you can imagine. By that point, summer was in full swing, and so was the busy season for my job as an archaeologist. I really love my job for the most part, but it does mean when I'm busy doing fieldwork, I have a lot less time to devote to side projects like this one. This season, I spent some time in the high desert, documenting Model T car parts and camp stoves, 19th century can dumps, and beautifully made indigenous stone tools. One of my favorite parts is finding traces of what people were wearing, like buttons and garter hooks. All very exciting, but I was glad to get home again and pick up where I'd left off with this dress. For the collar decoration, I found an embroidery template online and mirrored it on either side of the collar. First, I created the outlines using a beaded backstitch. Then I began embroidering the pansies. I had 2 different shades of purple glass beads in my stash, and several colors of embroidery floss. I had fun alternating them, mixing and matching to create a variety of pansies on both sides of the collar, based on the ones blooming in my little garden. And here is the grand reveal. Thanks for watching, and I hope to have more sewing projects in the months to come.